Okay, let's have a hint of cheerfulness from the Mona Lisa Twins doing the Beatles.
If I needed someone to love, you're the one that I'd be thinking of. If I needed someone, if I had some more time to spend, then I guess I'd be with you, my friend.
Okay, that's your lot. Now we're moving on to see what's happening with Tien Pao. Do you remember where we left him? I think this will remind you. Yes, he's still travelling with the gorillas, especially the one who is acting as his father, his pretend father. And this is the young woman Yin, who's got the same name as his mother, who's cleaned him up and settled him down for the night with Glory of the Republic. And now we're moving on to a new chapter in the Town of Terror. That doesn't sound too cheery, does it? Early the next morning, Tien Pao and the gorilla chief began the last day's journey. The gorilla urged Tien Pao on, but Tien Pao turned once more to wave still another last farewell to the young woman in the doorway. "You won't get to Heng Yang walking backwards," the gorilla said. "It's still a full day's march." "Are you going to take me all the way?" Tien Pao asked. He shifted the carrying pole to a more comfortable and secure position on his shoulder. The Glory of the Republic was back in the bucket. The buckets already seemed heavy, and his shoulder was still sore from yesterday's jogging and constant sawing of the pole. It felt as if the jiggling pole had ground down to the bone. "No, not all the way, but I'll get you well beyond the Japanese lines. We should manage that by noon. And from there on you should be able to see the town from the mountain tops. Now, no more talk. Fall back and follow me at a distance again." All that day they did not pass a single Japanese. Gradually the gorilla led Tien Pao back to the river so that Tien Pao could follow it to Heng Yang when he had to go on alone. But as they neared the river, they neared the Japanese. There at last was the river, and there again the road in the valley beyond the river. On the road were the same heavy rumble of trucks and the hoof beats of cavalry that Tien Pao had heard during his long nights in the mountains. And here also was the steady tread of marching soldiers. The Japanese were on the march in force. Tien Pao and the gorilla stood looking down on it all. "Fast as we travelled," the man muttered, "they travelled faster. It's a forced march, and that can mean only one thing. They're out to take the city." "Heng Yang?" Tien Pao asked fearfully. Together they stood on the peak of a high river mountain. The gorilla didn't answer, just stood looking somberly into the far distance. Tien Pao set down the heavy buckets and stared where the man was staring. In a faraway bend of the river lay a distant town. From the town came a vague rumble as of thunder. Smoke rose from the town. "Heng Yang?" Tien Pao asked again. The gorilla nodded. "That is Heng Yang, the town you started from. But now I can take you no farther. I promise to take you beyond the Japanese lines. But those turned out to be foolish words. The Japanese are already at the gates of Hengyang. When you go on alone, keep to the mountains and walk beyond the town. Then circle down and enter it by the street at the rear gate. The river's not far from that gate, but Hengyang is on fire. Still, it cannot be all destroyed, the man said somberly. I just now saw the flash of guns coming out of the town. That means our armies are still battling for it. But would my mother and father still be in such a town of battle? The gorilla smiled a thin smile. If I know a father, he will wait until the last moment, in the small hope that you may return. And if I know a mother, she will wait until the Japanese are in the streets and their bayonets at her back before she gives up her firstborn son. Tien Pao nodded eagerly along with the words, but the picture of his mother with Japanese bayonets at her back filled him with sudden, overpowering dread. He hoisted the pole and buckets to his shoulder. But then I have to go, he said anxiously. Then I have to hurry. I have to go. The gorilla chief laid his hand on Tien Pao's shoulder. And may it go well with you, son. May it go well with you, Tien Pao mumbled. He set off at an anxious trot. Later he turned. He had not even thanked the gorilla for all he had done. But the gorilla chief was gone from sight over the mountain. Tien Pao stood rubbing his aching shoulder, staring back along the empty mountain path. With a heavy sigh he took up his buckets and trotted off towards the smoke clouds over the distant town. So they parted. The tall mountain from which he and the gorilla chief had first seen Hengyang had fooled Tien Pao. He walked for hours, but still the town and its billowing smoke looked no nearer. Only the boom of the cannon echoed louder among the high rocks. The afternoon waned and the evening came, and Tien Pao was still in the mountains. The carrying pole cut into his flesh as he struggled on. For the 100th time he shifted the pole and its load to the other shoulder. A weird glow from the burning town hung in the sky. The red glow spread as the mountains began to gather night darkness. Wearily, Tien Pao stumbled on. Will he get there tonight? It was almost midnight when Tien Pao reached Hengyang by the street at the rear gate. No sentry in the gate challenged him. No hurrying Chinese soldier looked at him. But in the narrow street, a mass of people surging toward the gate knocked Tien Pao down. Tien Pao picked himself up, too numb with weariness to care or understand. People were running in the night. They ran by him, bent under bundles and straining at heavy carts loaded with household goods. They wheeled by in rickshaws, almost buried under their household belongings. The wheels of rickshaws grazed Tien Pao. Everybody was running out of town. Only Tien Pao went into the town. He stumbled under the weight of his buckets. The surge of the crowd pushed him to the side of the street, into the shadows of the buildings. Nobody noticed him. At the far end of the town, were the thunder of guns and the swift white flashes. Flames leapt over the roofs. Smoke billowed black above the shooting flames. Tien Pao dragged himself on, too stupid with weariness to hear or see what went on around him. People yelled and people wept. Mothers called frantically to keep their children near them in the surge of the milling crowd. Fathers tried to herd their families together. Everybody was running. Tien Pao was pushed into the doorway of a building. Tien Pao leaned heavily against the shadowy building to rest for a few moments. He let himself sag until he sat on one of the buckets. Almost immediately his head began to nod. The rolling boom of the cannon jerked him away again. He staggered on. Deeper into the town, closer to the sound of battle and the hot roar of the fire. But where was the river? At last Tien Pao could carry his burden no longer. He stopped and spilled the litter out of the one bucket, pulled out the false bottom and lifted out the trussed-up little pig. He fumblingly undid the ropes that bound Glory of the Republic and knotted them together to make a short leash. The little pig, weary of his cramped quarters, trotted eagerly ahead. He pulled Tien Pao along by the rope. "Maybe you know where the river is," Tien Pao mumbled hopelessly. "Maybe you can smell it. The people are running and the sky is on fire, and I don't know anything any more." He let the little pig pull him. Glory of the Republic stopped to snuffle and snort among some garbage under an arch. Tien Pao let himself sag against the base of the arch. The dark mass of people streamed by. Suddenly an old woman with a deep hamper-like basket strapped to her back darted out of the crowd. She grabbed the rope in Tien Pao's hand. As if he had been hit by one of the stray bullets whistling overhead, Tien Pao jumped up. He looked wildly at the old woman. "It's my pig," he said thickly. "He is mine. Let go of the rope." The old hag kept tugging. "You are taking him to the Japanese," she screamed. "I saw you. You were going to the end of town where the Japanese are, and I die of hunger." "The Japanese aren't in the town," Tien Pao yelled back. He wouldn't believe it. "Don't you see the people running? Even our soldiers are running. Heng Yang is falling. Our army is defeated." And that, with Tien Pao and Glory of the Republic in great danger, that is where we'll leave him for now. Until next time.